This video is a short introduction to the sonnet. Now, the sonnet is a 14-line poem with a long historical pedigree. The Italian or Petrarchan sonnet was the earliest form, dating back to the 14th century. Although Petrarch didn't invent the sonnet, he was the most famous early exponent, and hence the Italian sonnet is usually referred to as the Petrarchan sonnet. It was 14 lines long and made up of an octave and a sestet. Although the poems were often about love, they were thought of as intellectual poems or arguments, with the octave forming a proposition and the sestet offering a resolution. The rhyme scheme was usually ABBA, ABBA, CDE, CDE. And Petrarch sometimes varied the sestet with a CD, CD, CD rhyme scheme. Other early exponents, such as Dante, also varied the rhyme scheme. As with the Italian sonnet, the English sonnet is named after a writer, and like Petrarch, Shakespeare was not the first, merely the most famous exponent. What came through from Italian into the English sonnet was not simply the 14-line format, but also the notion of an argument. Although the English sonnet has a number of variations, Shakespeare's sonnets, with a handful of exceptions, are made up of 3 quatrains followed by a rhyming couplet. As with the Italian sonnet, the first 8 lines often make up a proposition and the last 6 a resolution. But perhaps it might be more accurate with Shakespeare to say that there is a turn or twist in the argument in the 3rd quatrain, followed by a powerful punch of meaning or assertion in the final couplet. We'll look at an example in a moment. The rhyme scheme is a little different to the Italian sonnet in that it's usually AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF for the first 3 quatrains and a GG forming a rhyming couplet at the end. For me, it's this rhyming couplet at the end and Shakespeare's use of it that gives it a real power. A power that is lacking in the Italian form, or at least the use of the Italian form in English. Let's take a look at the prologue to Romeo and Juliet, which is a sonnet. It goes like this. 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured, piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which, but their children's end, naught could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage. The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. Note that each line is composed of 10 syllables. Count them out on your fingers. 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. Note also that the rhythm is iambic, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean, dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. And note that if we have 10 syllables in a line, we have 5 beats, or 5 feet to use the precise poetic terminology. From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. So sonnets are composed of lines of iambic pentameter. So to sum up, the Shakespearean sonnet has 14 lines of iambic pentameter with an AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG rhyme scheme. Let's take a look in more detail at another example, focusing on the meaning and structure of the argument in the sonnet. Sonnet 18 is one of the most famous of Shakespeare's sonnets. Let's listen to it. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of the fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. I'll just talk you through the structure of the argument. So in the opening quatrain, we have the lover talking to his love, wondering if he should compare her beauty to a summer's day. But he rejects this because she's lovelier and calmer. The summer can be windy and end too quickly. He goes on to develop the proposition in the second quatrain. Summer can be too hot or it can be cloudy. And anyway, every fair from fair sometimes declines. Everything beautiful becomes less so. Nature means we grow old and lose our beauty. And then in the next quatrain, we get the wonderful twist or turn in the argument with the assertion that thy eternal summer shall not fade. You will stay beautiful forever and never lose possession of your beauty. Even death will not defeat you. And why? Because in eternal lines, that is lines of poetry, you will survive and grow. And here we have a key idea of the Renaissance, that art can be eternal and be a means of defeating mortality, and hence we get this wonderful ending couplet and punchline. As long as humans exist, so will Shakespeare's sonnet, and his poetry will hence give eternal life to his love. So it's a fabulous assertion of both his art and art as a form of preservation of beauty and life. And if this seems like a fantastical idea, just take a look on YouTube and see how many different readings and reworkings of this early 17th century poem exist today. There's readings by the likes of Bernard Shakespeare, David Tennant, Tom Hiddleston, Al Pacino. There's animated versions, there's rap versions, and there are musical versions, all giving life 400 years plus later to the beauty that died centuries ago, through contemporary artists reworking Shakespeare's art. My favourite is this one by David Gilmour.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long to thee.
From the sublime to the satirical, here's a pastiche of Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, written by an ex-student of mine, Rafe Boylan, now the editor of the creative writing magazine Here Comes Everyone, and compere of the monthly Fire and Dust open mic poetry event. It goes like this. Excremental. Shall I compare thee to a warm dog turd? You are as pungent, something to avoid. Mistake regretted, like a sentence slurred. Love pulled me under when it should have buoyed. Scoop up reminders, bag 'em and bin 'em. Flush porcelain heart and scrub at the stains. Sometimes you lose and sometimes you win 'em. Say flies caught in cobwebs on window panes. Reminding me that things could be much worse, although we both know there was once a time I saw no future other than a hearse. And all because you were no longer mine. Dogs and people are full of the same stuff, but we don't admit it and call ours love. I like this very much, as formally it's just about perfect, with the A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and I suppose a near or half-rhyme final couplet. It's iambic pentameter, dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. Shall I compare thee to a warm dog turd? You are as pungent, something to avoid. And it's a nice play on the love theme, though here a little darker and more cynical than in the Shakespeare sonnet. Writing sonnets can be challenging. As well as mastering the rhythm, getting the iambic beat and the pentameter, you've also got a complex rhyme scheme to master. Practice the rhythm as you walk along. Dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. Do this all day, composing, reworking everything until you are thinking and talking in the iambic pentameter, so it comes as naturally as breathing. Then think about the traditional intellectual structure of the sonnet. It's supposed to be an argument, supposed to have an internal dialectic and resolution. So structure it around a theme and then propose a thesis, antithesis or counter-argument, and then a synthesis or resolution. Try to maintain a consistency of imagery. So in Sonnet 18, Shakespeare uses metaphors of weather, nature and time. You might use colours, shapes or musical metaphors, or indeed mathematics, hand tools, food, whatever you want, but thread them in so that there's a consistency of imagery pulling the poem together. Once you've got a basic argument, then try and put together some key lines. Work in the rhymes by changing the end words and then rephrasing the line as necessary. Always be prepared to substitute a word or rephrase a line to get the beat in order. So redraft again and again till you've got everything as you want it, everything perfect. And always remember you're working towards the synthesis, the power punch in the final couplet. So make sure these are good lines that smack the reader in the face and knock them out, so they go away impressed.